Exposed, the incredible journey of the Alpha Queen, a heartwarming transformation after 10 years. On a frigid winter evening in Maplewood, Wisconsin, Sarah sat at her cramped kitchen table, the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. The worn notebook in front of her was filled with ideas and recipes, scribbled in her desperate hope to awaken a dream hidden under years of burdens. Outside, the wind howled, a sound so familiar to her now, just like the echo of her nights spent as a waitress, tirelessly serving coffee and sandwiches to those who rarely looked beyond her apron. Dinner had been a simple affair for her and her spirited 12-year-old daughter, Lily, but tonight, that little kitchen felt like a sanctuary of possibility. The walls were brightened by Lily's arts and crafts, evidence of their bond, a reminder that family support was her greatest motivation. As she traced her fingers over the pages filled with thoughts of sugar and flour, she closed her eyes and imagined the sweet smell of freshly baked pastries wafting through a cozy bakery, in the heart of Maplewood, where life was a series of good mornings and sweet hellos. Sarah had long been dismissed as just the waitressing lady. But they didn't see the fire in her spirit or the dreams tucked away beneath layers of responsibility. Every day, she balanced multiple jobs, cleaning houses at night to make ends meet. But beyond her struggles lay a vision, a community bakery, an inviting place that blended flour and friendships. A space where her neighbors could gather, share laughter over steaming coffee, and savor the bittersweet taste of life together. As spring approached, hope started to blossom in her heart. She saved every penny she could to turn her bakery dream into daytime reality. But just as the flowers opened, a gust of uncertainty blew into town. Mark, a wealthy newcomer, arrived with big plans for a glitzy cafe that promised to enhance the charm of Maplewood. His presence stirred excitement in some and fear in others. Would they have to trade away their beloved small-town feel for this sleek new vision of progress? Sarah felt torn. Should she and her friends support Mark's mandate for prosperity or fight to preserve the soul of their community? The annual Maplewood Festival approached, a stage for Sarah to showcase her baking talents. With Lily cheering from the sidelines, she knew this was her shot to redefine her place, to remind them that she was more than just the waitress. As the townsfolk began to gather, mouths watering at the sight of her signature cinnamon rolls, disaster struck. An unforeseen mishap in the kitchen sent a plume of flour clouding the air, their excited buzz turning into gasps. In that moment, it felt like time stood still. Panic knotted her stomach, her dreams hanging by a thread, swirling away like the flour dust around her. But then, from behind her, she heard it. The murmurs of encouragement, the faces in the crowd, recalling the kindness she had shown them in their times of need. They remembered how she baked treats for families on stormy nights or offered to babysit when someone had to work late. This was more than a contest to her. The townsfolk were beginning to rally around her. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue feeling the warmth of their belief. She stood in front of her overturned dreams, ready to rise from the chaos. Would she bake her way into the hearts of Maplewood, or see her dreams dissolve amidst their whispers? The festival was more than just a showcase. It was the beating heart of Maplewood itself. As she reached for the remaining ingredients, she understood that her journey meant carrying the hopes of her neighbors with her. This wasn't just her fight. It was for everyone, and she was fueled by the hope that maybe, just maybe, she could change everything. But at what price? The crowd's murmurs intensified as Sarah gathered her composure. She could feel the eyes of Maplewood upon her, understanding what this moment meant not just for her, but for the entire community. The flower settled in the air like a ghost of doubt, but she was no longer afraid. She had something more powerful than fear. She had love. As she hurriedly surveyed the remaining ingredients, her mind raced with options. Should she stick to her original idea, or was this a sign to pivot, to take a risk? The townsfolk deserved the best of her, and she felt the urgency of the moment. Awareness washed over her a wave of determination. She decided right then and there that she wouldn't let a mishap dictate her fate. With newfound energy, Sarah threw herself into the task. The crowd watched in fascination as she mixed and measured. Each stir of the bowl brought back memories of baking with her mother, the joy they shared under the watchful eye of the kitchen clock. The smell of melted butter, sugar, and cinnamon began to swirl around her, distracting her from the weight of expectation. If this was to be a moment of truth, she needed to embrace the chaos and turn it into something beautiful. As she spread the dough onto the counter, Lily's laughter rang from the sidelines, a sweet sound cutting through the tension like a ray of sunlight. Sarah's heart swelled with pride. She wanted to show her daughter what it meant to take a leap of faith. For too long, Sarah had been defined by her struggles. This was a delicious moment to redefine herself in front of the community that meant everything to her. "I'm going to make something special," she called out to the crowd, securing their attention. She took a deep breath and focused. With skillful hands, she rolled out the dough, filling it with a mixture of brown sugar and cinnamon, each twist infused with her hope and dreams. As she sliced the rolls and placed them carefully onto the baking sheets, she heard whispers of encouragement and reminders of the kindness she had shown. With a dash of enthusiasm, she popped the trays into the oven and watched the bubbling, rising rolls through the glass. The warmth radiated not just from the oven, but from the hearts surrounding her. She realized that she wasn't alone. They were all in this together, hoping for something wonderful. But just as the sweet aroma began to fill the air, a sudden realization struck her. Mark's Cafe, with its slick, modern appearance, had promised a brand new era for their little town. Would her humble bakery blend in, or would it get drowned out? Just another victim of progress? The anxiety crept back, unsettling the joy she had fought so hard to foster. The thought pulled her mind away from the immediate happiness. She needed a plan. What if she showcased her bakery as a community hub, a place where everyone felt welcomed, despite any competition? Could her baked goods evoke nostalgia in a world fascinated by the new? As the timer buzzed, signaling that her cinnamon rolls were ready, the reality of the challenge loomed over her like a cloud. Would she be able to carve her niche? As Sarah pulled the golden rolls from the oven, a fresh wave of energy surged through her. The warmth of the pastry cradled in her hands was the warmth of community of every person who had supported her, from her daughter to her friends from the diner. As she stepped in front of the eager crowd, her heart raced, uncertainty tugging at her. She was about to reveal not just a treat, but a slice of her heart. A moment lingered heavily in the air. Would they taste the love she had poured into these rolls? Would they see her as more than the waitressing lady? Above the enticing aroma of freshly baked goods, a single thought crossed her mind: what if everything she built was about to change? A storm of emotions raged within her as she took that first step forward, ready to present her creation. Would her offering be embraced, or would it lead her down a path of heartbreak and loss? With a deep breath, she smiled at the crowd, questions still hanging in the air like sugar dust on a warm breeze, just waiting for the answer to unfold. The moment hung in the air, thick with anticipation. Sarah took a step closer to the crowd, her breaths coming shallow as she caught the eager eyes of her neighbors. Each face reflected a different shade of hope. She could see the laughter lines on Mrs. Daniels and the way Mr. Thompson leaned in with visible curiosity. They weren't just observers. They were her community, her family. "Here goes nothing," she whispered to herself, feeling the warmth of the golden rolls in her hands. With a confident flair, she lifted one of the rolls high, showcasing the swirl of cinnamon and sugar. "Do not be shy. Come on up and grab one," she called out, infused with sudden energy. The crowd stirred, some hesitated, while others stepped forward, drawn by the inviting scent that danced through the air. As the first hands reached towards the tray, Sarah felt a spark of adrenaline. She locked eyes with Lily, who watched with wide-eyed wonder. "Mom, you did it!" her daughter shouted, excitement bubbling over as she grabbed a roll for herself. In that instant, Sarah was no longer just a woman baking. She was a beacon of tradition, connection, and resilience. As she started handing out the rolls, guided by instinct, she felt each warm, rolling embrace translate into something much deeper, a silent agreement that they would rally behind her. "Delicious!" shouted Timmy, the town mayor's son, his eyes lighting up like fireworks as he devoured a piece. Those 2 seconds, the 2 bites that echoed with happiness, were the kind of moments that made all the sacrifices worth it. Hands reached out, plates appeared, and before she knew it, the table was emptying faster than she could keep up. Laughter broke out, and the conversations that flowed around her felt like a melody, a real symphony of community. But even as her heart swelled with newfound joy, doubt lingered in the back of her mind. What if this joy was fleeting? What if Mark's cafe opened and swallowed up this moment of pride? Suddenly, Mark himself materialized at the edge of the crowd, his polished hair and confident stride drawing more attention than Sarah would have liked. Wasn't he there to sample her rolls? No. His eyes glimmered with an interest that made her throat tighten. "What's all this?" he asked, tilting his head as though he was sizing up a rival. Gritting her teeth, Sarah straightened her shoulders, putting aside her worries for the moment. "Just a little twist on tradition," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "People deserve something special." Mark's brows rose skeptically. "Is that so? In today's world, change is what people want. You can't compete with shiny new things." The air shifted. Voices quieted. Sarah felt her cheeks burn, anger igniting within her. But it wasn't Mark's comment that sparked her defiance, it was the sheer love she felt for her town. "What I'm offering is not just food, Mark. It's community," she asserted, feeling the weight of every hard-fought moment beneath her feet. "It's heart." A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd, emboldening her. She couldn't afford to let doubt win. Not now. Not when vision and love had led her here. But as the murmurs grew louder among her newfound supporters, Mark's expression hardened. The world in front of them had split in two. Sarah's heart raced. She hadn't just challenged him. She'd stepped into the spotlight of a brewing conflict. What would it take to protect her place in Maplewood? As she glanced at the hopeful faces around her, the desire for connection burned bright. But she sensed a storm gathering on the horizon, one she wouldn't back down from. Tomorrow might just hold the answer she needed. What new challenges would test her resolve? Would her dreams stand strong against the winds of change? The sun rose softly over Maplewood, painting the town in hues of pink and gold. Sarah felt the warmth on her face as she set out for the day. With yesterday's excitement still lingering, today held promise, yet the fear of Mark's cafe loomed over her, like dark clouds on an otherwise clear day. She needed clarity. As she entered her small kitchen, the smell of cinnamon lingered from her baking spree. It was a bittersweet reminder of the triumph she had tasted just a day before. Opening the pantry, she saw the flour, sugar, and spices she cherished so much, symbols of her dreams. The thought of her rolls being recreated in Mark's cafe felt like a theft, a betrayal of her labor of love. But she couldn't allow fear to dictate her actions. Lily's voice broke through her thoughts. "Mom, can we make something fun today?" Her daughter, with cereal in one hand and a big smile on her face, reminded Sarah of what truly mattered. Their little kitchen was a world of creativity, laughter, and warmth. "Sure, sweetie. How about we make some cookies?" Sarah suggested, her heart swelling with pride at Lily's enthusiasm. Together, they mixed ingredients, laughter echoing off the walls. In those moments, the doubts faded, replaced by a sweet understanding of what it meant to create together. "Can we put sprinkles on them?" Lily begged, her eyes wide with the kind of joy only a child can inspire. "Absolutely. This is our world, right?" Sarah smiled, feeling that little spark of hope reignite within her. But as they rolled the cookie dough, everything Mark had said crept back into her mind. Was tradition enough in this changing world? Did their community long for something different? After baking, Sarah decided to take a walk. She needed to clear her head and sought the familiar sights of Maplewood. The local park, with its vibrant flowers and children playing, was bustling with life. She spotted Mrs. Daniels on a bench, a group of neighbors surrounding her. A warmth spread through her as she approached, ready to share freshly baked cookies with them. "Delicious, my dear," Mrs. Daniels exclaimed, grabbing a cookie and offering Sarah that familiar twinkle of support. The crowd gathered around her, eagerly taking in the treats as conversations flowed. Each cookie held a piece of her heart, and they savored every bite. However, amidst the laughter, the soft sound of footsteps brought her attention to Mark, leaning against a nearby tree, arms crossed. His eyebrow lifted, as if to question her presence. "Nice crowd you got here, Sarah," he called out, his voice smooth, edged with sarcasm. "Thought people were craving something new?" Feeling the community's gaze shift between them, Sarah's heart pounded. "What I'm offering isn't to you just new, Mark. It's about connection. You think tradition and connection can withstand change?" He shot back, challenging the very foundation she had built. Their stares locked in a silent conflict. Could she truly represent something timeless in an ever-evolving world? "Maybe it's time for you to rethink what community means," he said casually, yet the weight of his words lingered. In that instant, something shifted inside Sarah. "I won't back down, Mark. Not now, not ever." As the community rallied behind her, their collective belief felt like armor, shielding her from doubt. But the path ahead was unclear. Mark's words echoed, resonating with the potential of future struggles. What would happen next? Would her resolve hold strong against the temptation of change? The answer lay ahead, just waiting to unfold. The morning sun had climbed higher now, casting a golden sheen over Maplewood. Sarah could feel the weight of her decision pressing against her. Today wasn't just about cookies or community. It was about so much more. Her heart raced as she turned to face Mark, who was still leaning against the tree, a passive observer in this moment of her life. "Mark, you don't get it," she called out, the warmth of her baking giving way to the heat of determination. "It's not just about food. It's the love behind it. The memories we create. That's what people crave." He pushed off the tree, approaching her with a slow, deliberate stride. "And what if they forget your roles? What if they want something else? Are you ready to fight for a memory?" His voice remained steady, but there was a challenge in his eyes that made her blood boil. "Why must it always be a fight? Why can't we uplift each other?" She shot back, the crowd behind her brimming with support. Their curious faces reflected her own determination and fear. Uplift? Or hold on to what's familiar? Change isn't a crime, Sarah. The air thickened with tension. She could feel the neighborhood watching, their hopes and doubts intertwining like threads in a tapestry. Would they embrace the change Mark represented, or would they rally around the comfort of her warm cookies? Mrs. Daniels stepped forward, her voice breaking the uneasy silence. "Sarah has brought us together, time and time again. It's the love she pours into every roll, every cookie, that makes us feel like family." Heads nodded in agreement, and Sarah felt the surge of strength from her community wrap around her. But as she looked back at Mark, uncertainty flickered in her gut. Was the love enough in a world racing towards the new, the innovative? "I just want to stand my ground," she admitted, her voice softening. "I want to inspire people to remember the simple joys." "Then show me," he replied, his tone now softer, almost challenging. "Throw the bake-off. Let the community decide what they want. If you believe in your vision, let them taste it." The idea hung in the air like the sweet aroma of bakery treats. A bake-off? That felt risky and exhilarating all at once. Sarah's heart beat faster, excitement mingling with anxiety. "And if I lose?" she asked, fearing the answer. "Then you evolve," he said, eyes glinting with an unsettling mixture of admiration and skepticism. "But if you win, you'll see what truly matters in your dreams." Around her, whispers of excitement surged. It was as if the collective heartbeat of Maplewood thrummed in support of this new venture. There was laughter again, a feeling of unity beneath the undercurrent of competition. "All right," she said, summoning courage she didn't know she had. "I'll do it." I'll show everyone that love and tradition can stand tall in the face of change. The crowd erupted into cheers, and for the first time, Sarah felt a flicker of confidence dance within her. But with that resolve came a deeper question. What if she wasn't ready? What if her best wasn't enough anymore? As Mark turned to leave, a smirk replacing the previous bravado, Sarah couldn't help but feel a mixture of determination and dread. This was just the beginning of a new battle, and challenges lay ahead. But even in the face of uncertainty, a thought lingered. Did her heart have what it takes to win this bake-off? The question hung heavy in the air as Sarah returned to her kitchen, ready to throw herself into her craft once more, yet aware that the true battle for her dreams had just begun. What if all her efforts could either crumble under pressure or rise to the occasion? The answer would unravel soon enough. As Sarah stepped back into her kitchen, the warm, familiar scent of flour and sugar filled her senses. It wrapped around her like a comforting hug, something she desperately needed now. Her mind buzzed with thoughts, both exciting and terrifying. A bake-off. The entire town, judging her baking skills. What had she gotten herself into? She turned on the oven, letting the heat seep into the room. The soft hum of the appliance was like a heartbeat, grounding her. As she prepared the ingredients, memories of joyful baking with her grandmother washed over her. They'd spent countless evenings kneading dough and laughing over spilled flour. Those moments had filled their home with love. Now, she felt the same warmth could spread throughout Maplewood if she played her cards right. Focus, Sarah, she whispered to herself, determination fighting against the gnawing anxiety. She decided to stick to her roots, to make her signature cookies and rolls, the ones loved by the entire neighborhood. But maybe she could twist them just a little, putting a modern spin on tradition without losing the essence of what made her baking beloved. Flour danced in the air as she poured it into the mixing bowl. She craved the lightness in her heart that came with every rise of her dough. Each ingredient felt like a piece of her soul being kneaded into the mix. Eggs cracked, sugar poured, and cinnamon sprinkled over the bowl. These were the soothing motions, the familiar rhythm she needed. Around noon, with the first batch of cookies cooling on the rack, the doorbell rang. It startled her, pulling her from her kitchen reverie. She wiped her hands on a flour-dusted towel and opened the door, heart fluttering. It was Mrs. Daniels, a broad smile lighting up her face. "I came to check on my favorite baker," Mrs. Daniels exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. "I couldn't help but smell the sweetness wafting through the neighborhood. It's like a siren's call." "Just trying to get ready for the bake-off," Sarah replied, unable to hide her grin. Mrs. Daniels always had a way of lifting her spirits. "Well, if anyone can win a bake-off, it's you, dear." Her voice held a confidence that wrapped around Sarah like a warm blanket. "You've got the heart and the skill. Just remember, it's about connecting with the people around you. That's what you do best." Sarah's heart swelled. She knew she was recognized for her warmth, her spirit. But still, doubts tucked into the corners of her mind. What if it wasn't enough anymore? What if the world had changed so much that love baked into cookies couldn't compete with the latest gourmet trends? "Are you afraid?" Mrs. Daniels asked gently, sensing the turbulence beneath Sarah's facade. "I guess so," Sarah confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if I fail?" "Failure is just a stepping stone, dear. The real victory is in the attempt," she encouraged, her hand resting reassuringly on Sarah's shoulder. As they shared a cup of coffee, Mrs. Daniels spoke of past bake-offs, of the togetherness they had fostered in the community. Sarah started to envision not just competition, but celebration, a gathering of flavors, stories, laughter, and connection. With renewed vigor, Sarah returned to her baking, her heart a little lighter. The thought of her community coming together fueled her energy. She wasn't just baking for herself. She was baking for everyone who had shared those moments of joy with her. But as she mixed another batch, a sudden thought struck her. What if Mark's point was valid? What if this bake-off became an opportunity for something far beyond cookies? The oven beeped, drawing her focus back. She placed the tray inside with a surge of excitement. Maybe this was her chance to reinvent herself while holding tight to tradition, but a deeper question tugged at her heart. Could she balance both tradition and innovation without losing who she was? Each baking session would reveal a little more about her path forward. The bake-off was just days away, and Sarah knew she had to prepare. But what would happen when the community tasted her creations? Would they cheer her on, or would they choose Mark's new, flashy ideas? In her gut, she felt the stirring of something bigger. The question lingered, what exactly would this bake-off become? As the day of the bake-off approached, Sarah's excitement mingled with a constant buzz of anxiety. She spent every spare moment in her kitchen, flour dusting the counter like a thin blanket. The rhythm of her mixing, whisking, and baking was familiar, yet somehow felt different this time. Each cookie she shaped, she poured a little more of herself into, hoping to capture the heart of Maplewood in each batch. But doubt lingered. What if her efforts were just not enough? What if nobody remembered the nostalgia of her grandma's recipes? In the quiet moments between batches, her mind strayed to Mark and his grand ideas. His flashy presentation of ingredients, the elaborate designs, it was as if he was painting a canvas, while she was merely framing a picture. Sarah. A familiar voice pulled her from her thoughts. It was Mia, her longtime friend, who had the perfect timing to brighten her spirits. "Hey there." Sarah beamed, wiping her hands on her apron before giving Mia a quick hug. "Smells incredible." "I'm not sure who is luckier, the cookies or the town," Mia laughed, taking in the warm, inviting aroma wafting through the air. "I hope the town feels that way." "I'm feeling the pressure to impress," Sarah admitted, her voice laced with uncertainty. Mia grabbed a cookie off the cooling rack and broke it in half. "You are about to redefine what people think of as delicious. Just remember, it's not about approval. It's about sharing a piece of who you are." As they chatted, the conversation flowed easily, lifting Sarah's spirits. Yet deep down, she still grappled with the fear of the bake-off turning into something she never intended, a competition that emphasized styling over substance. Later that evening, Sarah poured herself another cup of coffee and took a moment to reflect. The bake-off was about more than cookies. It was an opportunity to weave together past and present, tradition and innovation. But how could she showcase that connection? With each sip, clarity emerged. She envisioned a centerpiece, a creation that symbolized her journey, one influenced by her grandmother's loving touch yet altered by her own newfound confidence. It would tell a story of generations, their struggles, their triumphs. As she fell asleep that night, the vision danced in her dreams. Flavors intertwined, colors mingled, and excitement bubbled within her. No more second-guessing, no more comparing. She would embrace her roots and let them carry her forward. But what happened next shocked her. When she arrived at the bakery early the following morning to practice her centerpiece for the competition, she found Mark already there, setting up his elaborate display. The tension in the air crackled, and Sarah felt a knot in her stomach. "Wow, impressive setup, Mark," she said, forcing a smile. He looked up, a smirk on his face. "Thanks. I think it'll be a showstopper." Her heart raced. She couldn't let his confidence shake her. This was her moment to shine, to finally share the real story behind her baking. But as she set out her ingredients, doubt crept back in. How would the townspeople react? Would they even care about her tradition? Before she could linger in her thoughts any longer, Mark turned to her, a glint of challenge in his eyes. "Ready for some friendly competition? May the best baker win." The words hung heavy in the air. Sarah's resolve was now tested. What did winning truly mean if it came at the expense of losing herself? As the clock ticked down to the bake-off, Sarah took a deep breath, her heart beating wildly. A wave of determination washed over her. This wasn't just about baking. It was about connection, legacy, and proving that even in an evolving world, real love for food and community could never be overshadowed. With that thought coursing through her, Sarah began her work, each motion fueled by a renewed sense of purpose. But would she have the strength to stand firm against the looming spotlight of the competition? Would she rise above the pressure and fear? Or would Mark's grand presentation outshine her heart-filled creations? The jittering anticipation grew as the bake-off approached, and Sarah knew she was stepping onto an emotional roller coaster. She took one last glance at Mark's setup before turning her focus inward. Tomorrow, she would unveil not just cookies, but a piece of herself. But could her heartfelt story outdo the spectacle in front of her? As morning broke, Sarah could feel the energy of anticipation humming through Maplewood. The bake-off was finally here, and the air felt electric. Driven by the love of her family and grandmother's wisdom, she was ready to pour every ounce of heart into her centerpiece. At the bakery, a small crowd had gathered. People chattered excitedly, sampling cookies from various stalls, laughter mingling with the scent of warm pastries. Sarah took a deep breath and stepped into her space, where everything was laid out: simple bowls of flour and sugar, an array of vibrant colors awaiting her touch. Yet, as she glanced at Mark's extravagant display, with its towering cakes and meticulously crafted decorations, a wave of intimidation washed over her. Sparkling sugar sculptures intertwined with decadent fudge, all perfectly positioned. It was beautiful, and a part of her wanted to shrink back. Would her humble treats really stand a chance? Focus, Sarah, she told herself. This is for you, not him. She rolled up her sleeves and began creating her centerpiece. The sugar cookie dough came together beautifully under her hands, rich with nostalgia. She reached for her grandmother's old recipe book, its pages worn and cherished. The familiar smell of vanilla filled the air, invoking childhood memories of baking in her grandmother's kitchen, laughter and love wrapping around her like a warm blanket. With each scoop, each sprinkle, she felt more connected to those precious moments. She wasn't just baking cookies. She was weaving a narrative, crafting a connection. A nod to her grandma's traditions, yet uniquely her own. Then she glanced at the judges, a mix of town elders and local bakers, recognizing some familiar faces among them. Her heart fluttered when she spotted Mrs. Henderson, who used to bring cookies to her house every holiday. Could she see the spirit of those days reflected in Sarah's work? As she worked meticulously on details, the energy in the bakery shifted. People began to notice her centerpiece take shape. A colorful cookie garden, blooming with vibrant icing flowers, was slowly coming together. Wow, that is going to be stunning. Mia chimed in, stopping to admire the transformation. Sarah smiled but felt a small part of her tremble with insecurity. Do you really think it's enough? I don't want to disappoint anyone. Mia squeezed her hand, her eyes shining. This isn't about others. This is about who you are. And that cookie garden? It's beautiful, just like you. Reassured, she poured herself into the final touches, authentically reflecting her journey. Finishing up, she stepped back to take it all in. The centerpiece told a story, one of labor, of connection, of family. But just as the final icing tuft was set, Mark approached. His eyes scanned her work, then stopped. That's different, he said, a hint of surprise cracking his confident demeanor. It's more than just cookies, Sarah said, meeting his gaze. It's about our roots. Mark chuckled softly, shaking his head. Guess we're both taking risks then. The tension shifted, and for a moment, a new understanding passed between them. Maybe the competition had sparked something deeper than rivalry, perhaps even respect for one another's journey. Then, the announcement came: the judges were ready to taste. Sarah's heart raced. This was it. She did her best, created from love, but would that be enough? As people gathered around the judging table, Sarah held her breath. She had given her all, but how would they respond? Would they feel the heart and history behind her creation? Sarah's mind whirled with possibilities. She was ready to share a piece of her soul, but did she have what it took to stand tall against the flash of Mark's display? With a deep breath, she stepped forward, bracing herself for the moment that could change everything. Would the judges taste the passion behind her cookies, or would they be dazzled by the spectacle surrounding her? Would she discover what it truly meant to honor her roots, or would it all slip away in the face of competition? As the judges approached, Sarah's heart raced like a drum in her chest. She felt vulnerable, exposed. Would they taste the love she had poured into each cookie? Would they see the stories behind the colors? The first judge, Mrs. Henderson, picked up one of her intricately iced flour cookies. A wave of nostalgia spread through Sarah as she watched the elder's brow furrow in concentration. Mrs. Henderson had been a guiding force in her childhood, a beacon of warmth represented in every cookie Sarah had baked. "Oh, my dear," Mrs. Henderson exclaimed after taking a bite, closing her eyes in appreciation. "These take me back to sunny afternoons spent in the kitchen." For a fleeting moment, Sarah's worries dissipated. The joy in Mrs. Henderson's reaction ignited a flicker of hope. Her fingers tingled with anticipation as the other judges dipped into her cookie garden, sampling the vibrant creations. "This is fantastic," one of the younger judges whispered to his companion, nodding vigorously as he savored another flour cookie. There was genuine delight in their voices, and she held her breath, caught in the beauty of this moment. But then she saw Mark standing nearby, arms crossed, watching her intently. The competitive energy between them had shifted again. She could see it in his stance. He was no longer just a rival. He was now a part of her journey, a reminder of how far she had come. The last judge, a stern-looking elder with a long white beard, took his time with her signature cookie, a delicate butterfly perched atop a dainty flower. He scrutinized it closely, his expression unreadable. Moments stretched painfully until he finally took a bite. His eyes widened, and he let out a low whistle. "This is incredible. It's light, flavorful, and very cleverly crafted." A wave of relief washed over Sarah. She felt light, almost buoyant. She had shared her story, her history, her heart, and they had responded with kindness and admiration. But Mark's presence loomed, a contrast to her joy. "Not bad for a garden," he called out with a playful grin. "But I doubt it stands up to my berry explosion." Her moment of triumph fluttered for a second. Was she still just a stepping stone for him? Stretching out her emotions, Sarah suppressed her frustration. Instead, she decided to respond with a smile. "You know, Mark, sometimes it's not just about the sugar. It's about the soul behind it." A ripple of laughter and chatter flowed around them, and Mark's expression hardened slightly. "You're right," he admitted after a moment, hands unfurling at his sides. "It's about being true to yourself, isn't it?" As they exchanged words, something new sparked in the air, a tentative partnership, a budding friendship forged out of shared experience rather than contention. The judges wrapped up their tastings and began deliberating. Sarah stood by herself, the cacophony fading as she processed everything swirling in her head. She had poured herself into those cookies, showing her colors, her roots. Did it really matter who won, as long as she remained authentic to herself? As the judges returned, Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation settle in her stomach. Would she walk away feeling proud, no matter the outcome? "Before we announce the winner," one of the judges spoke, glancing over the crowd, "I must say that this year's bake-off has brought forth not just talent, but heartfelt stories. Today, we witnessed something special." Sarah's breath hitched. Her heart thundered. No matter how this ended, the journey had been transformative. But then, in an unexpected twist, the judge leaned forward. There's one creation that truly captured the essence of Maplewood. As he spoke, Sarah's gaze drifted to Mark, their eyes locking in silent understanding. Whatever happened next, they had both grown. But who would walk away victorious? And that creation is Sarah's stunning cookie garden. The judge's voice rang out, grounding her world in a moment that felt simultaneously surreal and exhilarating. The crowd erupted into cheers, and Sarah's heart raced, a wild combination of disbelief and joy. Tears prickled in her eyes as her neighbors clapped and hooped, celebrating not just her achievement, but what it represented: a collective dream realized, nostalgia revived, and a community brought closer together. Mark, standing nearby, looked genuinely impressed. His eyes softened, and he approached Sarah, extending his hand. "Congratulations, Sarah. You truly deserve this." In the heat of competition, this moment of camaraderie felt like a bridge across their differences. It was a shared acknowledgement that they both cared deeply for the heart of Maplewood. "Thank you, Mark," she replied, accepting his handshake, feeling sparks of mutual respect ignite between them. This wasn't just about baking. It was about understanding each other's journeys. As the crowd continued to cheer, Sarah soaked in the encouragement, letting the warmth of her neighbors wrap around her like a beloved scarf. She thought of Lily's proud smile, her daughter's belief in her had never wavered. For the first time, Sarah didn't feel like the onlooker in her own life. She had stepped up, faced her fears, and triumphed in a way she never imagined possible. The scuffles and scoffs of competition faded into a celebration. Neighbors shared stories, laughter spilled across tables, and everyone dug in, sampling her cookies that had woven precious memories with contemporary spirit. People tallied up their favorite moments as they munched and relished the treats.
Mom.
You did it! Lily bounced alongside her, her eyes sparkling with pride. You showed everyone that love can win. Sarah knelt beside her daughter, taking the moment to absorb the fullness of their shared joy. It was never just about the cookies, sweetie. It was about sharing our hearts. Their embrace felt like a cozy hearth against the cold. As the festival continued, Sarah gazed around her. Maplewood was alive, vibrant, and pulsating with the sweet rhythm of togetherness, the very essence of community that she had always yearned to preserve. She turned to see Mark speaking with some townsfolk, part of a budding conversation that started to look less like rivalry and more like collaboration. Her heart swelled. Maybe he had heard her that connection mattered more than shining presentations. He too had a vision for the town, but perhaps it didn't mean they couldn't both thrive. With renewed courage, Sarah carved a path toward him.
Hey, Mark.
She called out, and he turned, eyes curious. Let us think about ways we can collaborate, combine our visions for Maplewood. There's room for both tradition and progress. A smile crept across Mark's face, illuminating his expression with unexpected warmth. That sounds like a great idea. I think we can create something truly special together. As they stood side by side, Sarah felt a new chapter unfolding not just for herself, but for them all. She realized that true progress would not overshadow the past but rather flourish because of it. With the sun setting on Maplewood, casting a golden hue over everything, she felt a fresh wave of gratitude wash over her. This was where she belonged. She wasn't just Sarah the waitress or Sarah the baker. She was Sarah the Alpha Queen, a woman who turned her dreams into dough and her fears into freedom. In that defining moment, holding onto her daughter's hand and looking into the horizon of possibilities with Mark and her neighbors, she understood. Every challenge she embraced brought her not just closer to her dreams, but also to the heart of her community. And that was the sweetest reward of all. Now, if you've enjoyed this heartwarming journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it really makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending because I want to hear from you. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. The support of true fans means everything.